I'm barely keeping my eyes open. We got out of session last night at around 2, 3 in the morning, and I got a couple hours sleep and then hopped on a plane to come back here to do a full day here on Sunday. So, but we had a great week down there, passing a renewable energy bill, finishing up our appropriations bill, starting to put more money into Head Start programs, environmental protection programs, passing the 9/11 recommendations that the president has been ignoring for years, finally passed that. So we're in good shape.
I know you and Congressman Courtney held a press conference on Medicare Part D. I want you to just elaborate on what happened there.
Yeah, you know, one of the really maybe the most important bill that we passed in the first 7 months of Congress was a health care expansion bill that is going to expand health care to millions of poor children and also start to fix the Medicare prescription drug program. I mean, maybe there was no bigger issue in my campaign against Nancy Johnson than that issue. And the bill that we passed last week is going to make several important fixes. It's going to allow seniors to be able to switch their plans when the drug plan that they're using switches the drugs that they cover. It's going to start to fill the donut hole for some of the most vulnerable seniors, and it's also going to get rid of the asset test that prevented a lot of low-income seniors from getting into the program. Oh, one more thing, it's going to for lower-income seniors, it'll get rid of that penalty for late sign-ups. These are really important fixes. Joe Courtney and I introduced legislation to make those changes earlier in the year, and we were successful in getting a lot of our bill included in the big health care expansion bill that we passed this last year. So that's great news for seniors who've been struggling with this Medicare prescription drug bill.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing you did down there in the last week or so was another big thing you campaigned on was on ethics reform. And I saw there was a big passage that you had a lot to do with. I wanted to know if you can talk to my readers a little bit about that as well.
We passed lobbying reform legislation. I mean, you know, I got to tell you, I mean, I've been surprised at a lot of things, you know, my first 7 months there, and that place really is sort of crawling with, you know, these lobbyist special interest folks. And, you know, that didn't end when the Republicans left town, but they sort of retreated to the periphery once the Democrats took control of Congress because they knew that, you know, it was actually going to be like what the American people wanted to happen rather than what the lobbyists wanted to happen. But, you know, they're all sitting out there on the edges waiting to figure out how to get back into the game. We passed a lobbying reform bill that's really going to continue to set up a really strong wall between Congress and those lobbyists. Passed it to the House and the Senate. Hopefully the president's going to sign it. It's not enough, though. I'm fighting like heck down there to pass ethics reform. Congress, you know, we got people going to jail, it seems, on a weekly basis. New FBI investigations into, you know, folks on both sides of the aisle, mostly Republicans, but both sides of the aisle. And Congress has its own ethics process has totally stood still here. We've got to set up an outside, independent citizens ethics panel to make sure that the rules of Congress are followed and people are held accountable for their actions. So I've been kind of leading the freshman class to try to get some comprehensive ethics reform legislation passed, and I hope we'll get a chance to vote on that when we come back in the fall.